Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of 2023. And today we have three HCL presenters who will talk about a new application available in Domino called Restyle, and then talk about how you can then use those restyled applications and use Nomad to use them in iOS or mobile devices, the web, etc. So first, before we get started, let's go through a couple things. So our three presenters from HCL are up on the screen. Many of you probably know Maureen, Leland, who is the original developer of Domino Designer. And I want to have a big shout out to the OpenNTF sponsors. HCL has funded our organization, and it helps pay for webinars like this and contests. And we also help run some of the user groups. We make a sponsorship for the various user groups around. And that's all thanks to HCL and their financial donation. And also Prominent, who donates the entire IT structure of OpenNTF. So there are several servers involved. They help with the admin as well. So thanks to both companies for helping out OpenNTF. As you know, OpenNTF is a user community. We're all volunteers. Everyone on the board's volunteer, and as well as the people who help out. So we're always looking for people to come help out. If you had a project you want to work on or help or test or write some documentation, just let us know. We'll find something for you to do. We'd always appreciate the help. Upcoming events, I want to point out that we have Engage coming up. Theo is pulling together another great event, as always. This time it's going to be in Amsterdam in April 24th. So you can go to the Engage website. It's engage.ug and register and plan to attend. It's, I'm sure, going to be another good event. Our next webinar is all set up. You can register for this if you go to the openntf.org/webinars page. And we're going to hear about what's new in Domino security in the two latest versions, 12.01 and 12.02. So that's February 16th, same time as this one, which is 11 a.m. New York City time. Okay.
Howard,
yes.
I got one other upcoming event that looks like it didn't make it onto the list. Next week, OpenNTF is hosting a repair cafe with admin topics, Domino admin topics. We held our first repair cafe for development topics last week. And for those that missed it, it was actually a smashing success. We had quite a lot of people show up and some good conversations. For those of you that don't know what a repair cafe is, it's simply a bunch of people getting together in a space and having a kind of a face-to-face experience similar to what all the different forums are, where somebody comes up with a question and is running into some kind of trouble from a, in the case of development topics, and in the case of admin, admin topics. So next Wednesday, again, this time, there'll be a bunch of admins that are in that space, and people can come and learn from each other, share their ideas. Doesn't even have to be a question. You can come and talk about how you do troubleshooting, but it's basically the idea of having a face-to-face forum for learning from each other. So that's, again, next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time.
Okay, thanks, Graham. Yeah, sorry, I missed that. So I put in the chat for everybody the URL. If you go to that URL, and then at the top, there's a tab for Repair Cafe, you will get the information about what Graham was talking about, as well as a link to join the meeting room at the appropriate time. So thanks a lot, Graham. All right, so talking about asking questions for today, everyone's going to say, is this going to be recorded? Yes, it is. We have a YouTube channel. The link is on the screen. And if you do have questions throughout the webinar, please ask them in the questions pane. that is in your GoToWebinar interface. So there's a picture of that on the slide. We will respond to your questions verbally at the end of the webinar. So we will not be answering questions in the GoToWebinar interface. This way we can record the questions and answers so people can listen to those later on. If you have any questions not related to the webinar, please post those on our Discord channel. Today, we're only going to be taking questions related to the topic at hand. Okay, so let's get started with the webinar. I think the first up is Bob. So Bob, I'm going to make you the presenter. And you can unmute yourself, Bob.
I did. Thank you.
Okay, great. And then if you want to start showing, yep, we're seeing your screen.
All right, you see the presentation view?
Yeah, and actually it looks like,
nope. Or do you see the other
screens?
Yeah.
Because we're seeing there we go. You got it now. So I'm just seeing the slide. Great. Thanks, Bob.
All right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Bob Sielken. I'm one of the primary developers on the HCL Nomad for web browsers. So I'm going to be mostly focusing on the Nomad aspects of today. And with me, I've brought Maureen, Leland, and Emmy to talk more about the Restyle, which is available in Nomad, but it's also available in the Nodes client and is more encompassing than Nomad itself. So you get a multi-approach in all of these topics, and we will merge those together. So with that, let's get started. So I'm going to talk just about a brief about what is Nomad. We're always surprised at how many people don't know what Nomad is, so I want to just talk about it in general. And then I have a bunch of demos related to the Nomad server on Domino, which is one of the new ways to get Nomad deployed in your environments, and then a bunch of different Nomad demos that kind of are related and have different features and stuff. And then we will get into more of the Restyle aspects, and that will include some more demos and information, and that will come from Emmy and Maureen. But for now, let me go ahead and start it off with more of just the Nomad parts to sell. So what is Nomad? So Nomad is the web and mobile client-based solution that we have, which basically allows you to run your Notes basic client. So notice that I said basic there and not the standard for the desktop client. So you're not going to get anything that's Java related. It is basically the basic client that you are traditionally used to. And the whole goal, of course, is to be able to run your Domino applications as is, without any changes, without having to redesign your applications. The way they're running on the Notes client now should be able to run in the Nomad clients. Of course, you may want to upgrade and improve your applications, but that improvement will be done for all of the platforms, including Notes and Nomad. But that is what Restyle will get us to in the end. But part of the goal for Nomad is to not have a client to install. And you can argue on the semantics of that wording or not, but for the web browser, it's just you go to the web page, you go to the URL, and you just run it. And it runs from that URL. Every time there's an update, it automatically updates in the web browser, just like you would expect for a progressive web app or other web applications. For Android and iOS, it is an application that you install from the applicable Play Store or App Store, and the upgrades are managed through that store rather than through you doing it really yourself, unless you are running an MDM on those devices, which is supported, and you can manage that kind of stuff through there. But the goal is really that there aren't these big deployments. You don't have to do a client upgrade like you do for Notes or roll it out and everything else like that. And just a licensing note, Nomad is included with the CCB version 12 license, so there's no extra license for you to be able to run this. You should be already able to run Nomad on any of the web browsers, Android or iOS, if you have the CCB licensing stuff. So, like I mentioned there, for the desktop side, you're going to run it in a browser, and as long as you have a recent version of Chrome, Firefox, or Edge, you'll be able to just run that. And the QR codes, I'll give you a chance to screenshot this screen here. Those are the QR codes that take you to the applicable app store or the Google Play Store in order to be able to download the Android or iOS apps. You can obviously search for HCL Nomad and you'll find them in those same places, but those are the direct links if you would like to have them. So Nomad Server on Domino is a new approach to having the Nomad clients, be it the web browsers, Android or iOS, talk to the Domino server infrastructure. So of course, similar to how your Notes client talks to the backend Domino servers, you need to have your Nomad clients talk to your backend Domino servers. And there are limitations to how this can be done. And so this was originally driven through Nomad for web browsers, because the web browser sandbox containers do not allow us to just have any kind of communication that we want. It's very limited. And in particular, it's limited to web sockets. So we use the WebSocket secure protocol in order to be able to communicate from the web browser to our Domino servers, which don't inherently understand the WebSocket protocol. So what we had done originally was we used SafeLinks, which is another HCL product, which is a proxy product which does a lot of things, including VPN, reverse proxies, load balancing. It does a lot of other things as well. But what we did was we added the capability for it to basically proxy the WSS, the WebSocket Secure Protocol, which really just has NRPC packets inside of it. So the NRPC packets would be wrapped in WSS so that we could send them from the browser to the SafeLinks proxy. SafeLinks would take those NRPC and relay those to the Domino backend. So then Domino, all it ever sees is NRPC, which of course it's seen for years and knows how to handle, and that kind of stuff. However, having to deploy SafeLinks itself was problematic for certain customers. Customers who already have an existing reverse proxy or load balancer are not overly interested in deploying a different one. Customers that are smaller generally don't necessarily have many machines or people resources in order to deploy SafeLinks and get that figured out, and that kind of stuff. So that was a blocker for certain customers. But for other customers who like SafeLinks, it's a great product and does lots of things. And if you're using it for other things as well, SafeLinks is great and can still be used. But for those other customers who don't want to use SafeLinks, we wanted to have an easier option, which we now call the Nomad server on Domino. So this is a simple add-in task that is going to run on your Domino server. And by running on the Domino server, it will have some advantages, such as it doesn't need an LDAP server to be running on Domino. It's already running on Domino, so we can just do the lookups and stuff directly. The cert manager, which is a great thing for TLS configs in Domino, can be done and managed in Domino like you're used to. The deploy NSF, which is used for doing the federated login configurations and stuff, part of that can be auto-generated because it's on Domino and doesn't need SafeLinks. So technically, the Nomad server on Domino does not have anything directly tied to the Nomad for web browsers client, because it's just one of the clients, and you can use the Android or iOS clients using the Nomad server, so it supports all of them. But to make things easier, we have bundled the Nomad for web browsers files with the Nomad server to kind of give you, here's the one thing, it does the Nomad server add-in task and it does the web files, and they're all there, and you can have them updated at the same time and manage them together and that kind of stuff. So what used to be our architecture was this, where the devices come in to the Nomad server running SafeLinks, so that's the SafeLinks box in the middle, and it has various things that it requires. It requires a relational database to keep state because it is a full functioning reverse proxy and other things, and it has its own key store, and it has its own admin client to do those kind of things. And at some point, the Nomad Web static resources are located somewhere, be it on the Nomad server or on a different HTTP server. Somewhere those HTTP resources are there. When it's talking to the Domino servers for regular stuff, it's mostly using NRPC over 1352, but it's also doing the LDAP stuff to do the lookup, and that's an additional port. But if you look at this, you're going to see a lot of the things are going to disappear when I go to the next screen. And there you go. So now if you run the Nomad server on Domino, you can put the Domino server and have it be your proxy, or you can have a different proxy, as this picture shows in the middle, or you're in DMZ. And the Nomad server on Domino just can talk to the other Domino servers. It doesn't need the LDAP services. It's not running any other relational database to store stuff. It's just using all Domino, everything else. So this greatly increases the ability to deploy it, in that it makes it a lot simpler and a lot less complex. So let me go ahead and give you a demo here. So the Nomad server currently is just a zip file. So we're going to extract that file into our Domino directory, and this will include the Nomad server add-in task files, and it will also include the current version of the Nomad for web browsers client, so that you just have one and the same and make it easier. So you can see that we just unzip this file. On the left, I did not have any Nomad task running because the Nomad task had not been installed on the server. So now we are going to do one config node_sign-I to set, and that is mainly so that we can know which certificate to pull out of the cert store. So in this case, it's just called the my test. And then we load Nomad, and you can see that it's running. It told you that it was running, and if you run the show task on Domino, you can see that it is listening on port 9443. So by default, it is listening on a separate port. And now we've gone to Nomad for web, and we're going to register the user, which I fast forwarded. Obviously, it's not quite that fast. You can normally, it depends a lot on your network speeds, but normally it's around a minute. But I just had to type in the username, and he went and pulled the information from the Domino directory, and the user's ID is in the vault, and we're set up and running. So it's that simple to install the Nomad server and to then have it running in an environment that works, and we configured the Nomad for web browser in this case. So now I'd like to demo some of the features that are in Nomad itself. So it doesn't quite have everything that's in the HCL Basics client at this point, but we are working to get to feature parity for some things. And so the first one I want to show you is around QR codes and barcode reading, which is a function that the mobile clients can do. But we're going to start here in Nomad for web browsers with an admin professional. So in our hypothetical setup here, we're going to run a toy company. So we're going to have a warehouse that has an inventory of toys, and we're going to have a number of customers and sales reps who are going to go out and sell toys to these people. So we're going to start out here, and we're going to say that this admin gets a call and says, okay, I got a call from this customer who wants to buy some toys for us. They're called the Giant Toys Company, and I cannot find them. So you can see that we could do search, although this is a small sample database, you could see that the customer wasn't there, but we were able to do search, so you see those things. And so this is just a simple form for us to add a new company. So we're going to add the Giant Toys Company to our customer list, and we'll fill out this information. And then we'll be able to send our sales reps, which will be mobile. So they'll be on either an iPhone or an Android or an iPad and those kind of things. And we'll be able to send them out to this new customer to then get their orders and that kind of stuff. So this is just like somebody in the main office receiving the call and setting up the company information to then be signed out to there. So now you can see that we have created the client, and there's Giant Toys, and it exists. So the next thing is we're going to send one of our sales reps out to a customer and let them place their order. So if I start this one, you'll notice that I'm on an iPhone at this point. We do support Touch ID. So for biometric authentication, you can just log into your application and not have to type in a Touch ID password or anything else like that. And that also is your protection. So here we have the same application called Inventory Manager. And you'll see that we open it up, that this view has been customized, which we'll talk about more later as well, to run on the mobile application. So in the web browser that we saw where the admin added the company, we had different dashboard panels, including on the right side where we had the buttons where we search for the customer. In this case, it's hidden in that hamburger menu with the 3 bars and those kind of things. So you can customize the views in your app per the form factor that you have as you would like. Otherwise, you would have just the application as is in all the different cases. So in this case, we're going to look for some toys, and we're just going to do a text search, and we're going to pick one. So this is from the pre-filled list, and we'll just pick that and place the order for that. And we'll go in and pick the company name in a similar manner. We don't have many companies, so it's easier to find here. And we'll assign that and save that as an order for them. But let's say they want to use a QR code instead. So this is going to show that you can use a QR code. So we'll put in a different quantity, and when we go look for the product, then instead of looking through the list by name, we will scan a QR code or barcode, and this integrates with the operating system. In this case, it's iOS function. So you saw the little pop-up and it pulls up the camera and it finds the QR code that has the information that we need to look up the product. And it's a China doll. So we're able to do that, and we'll assign it to the same company just to keep them all together in our hypothetical setup. And we're back to the application. All right. Oh, it jumped on me. There we go. So in this second scenario, we're going to do the barcode rather than the QR code. But what I also wanted to show is, let's say we're going to go scan from some customer's warehouse. So they have some toys in there that they want to reorder, and we can just walk around and scan the barcodes to do that. But in this case, their warehouse has very little connectivity. So instead of trying to do everything live and have a live connection, I have set it up to, quote, work offline. So what that did was basically put us into an offline mode, and it also forced a replication before it went to offline. So we are now currently working offline, and we are going to do a similar scan, but instead of the QR code, we're going to look for a barcode. And you'll see the camera pops up like it did before, and we're going to find a different product via the barcode. So this would be another way to integrate with the features that are available in the native application cameras, so the QR code and the barcode. And we are at a different company, so we're going to pick a different company and save that. And we can see that the order is there. And now we're going to go back and say we walked outside again out of the warehouse, so we actually have connectivity again. And so we've marked it to work online again. So it kicked off the replication in the background this time. The first time you saw the access control and ECL execution control pop-up dialog to be able to allow to do that because of who signed the database. So all of that regular security application stuff is available in the mobile clients, just like it is in your desktop clients and things like that. So now we have these orders placed, and we want to look at how we could approve those orders and look at those orders. Part of that, before we get to the actual demos, is to show some of the new fields. So we have a new signature field. So this is for use as a rich text light option called signature to get a visual image of a signature that can be used for signing in forms and things like that. So this point here is just showing you that this is where the field is, and this is the classic designer to show you where these options are. There's also an @ command that you can use to have the signature, and you can control the width of how big the signature is going to be and those kind of things. So there are two different ways to get that information from the form. But let's see what it looks like in play when we go to do this. And so we're going back to our application here where we have the orders that we just placed in the previous videos. And we're going to go to look to approve some of them, but we're going to start with looking for those things waiting for approval. And we're going to pick one. And just to show you that we can do multiple things, we can pick one of these orders and we can also decline it. So the first one we're going to just pick and we're going to decline it without doing any signature. So if we decline it, we don't need to sign that we're going to approve it. So we're just going to decline it here. And you have, of course, the option to save or not save and those kind of things. In this case, we did save it. But now let's pick one that we can actually approve and do the signature as part of that approval. So we're going to pick this order here. And when we put it in edit mode, you can see that we have that signature field icon, which is a mechanical pencil drawing the line there. So that's what's being highlighted there. And so if we click on that, it will pop up the signature as available on the platform that we're on. And we'll see that this can vary between the mobile clients and the web client. This is the web client here. So you have two different options. You can either draw the signature, which is what we're going to do here, but you can also just type. And if you don't like how it starts, or you're not very good at drawing with your mouse, which is what you're doing here on the web browser, then you can clear it and start over. But we're gonna sign it here and say that that's good enough and save that as done. And you can see that this gets now stored into the document in the signature field, and we'll go ahead and approve this one. And when we refresh, you can see that that one disappeared because now it's been approved. So it's no longer awaiting approval. In this second one, you can see that we can use this also the button. So we talked about the @ command to do that. So there's your button. And so this time we'll click the button and we get the same dialog, but this time we're just going to type in our signature. So we're going to switch tabs to the type and we will type it in, and that's what you get. And you can see that that image gets put in there on your behalf. Some people have asked if we allow you to pick different fonts and different scripts and stuff for that signature. At this point, we don't. So you get the one that's picked there. But it is an image that you got to type in and create. All right. So let's say I'm a different approver and I'm running on an iPad this time. So instead of the Nomad for web browsers, I'm now running on the iPad. And it's running. So similar view. Remember, again, this is the iPad, so we have some of the panels, but the buttons are still in the hamburger menu up in the top right as far as the additional buttons are concerned. But we'll just double click on this one in this case to pick the one that was previously declined. And now as this different approver, we're going to click on the signature. And you will see that you got a different choice there. You could pick a different graphic, or you can pick sort of the capture signature dialog. So we picked the capture signature dialog, and you saw that was an iOS menu. And this is an iOS construct structure. So it looks more like it does on your device when you're running it. So you can see we have a similar signature. Done. And then we're going to go ahead and save this one as well. And now we refresh, and you can see that the orders are waiting approval. That one went away, just like it did when we were over in the web browser. So capture signature feature is customized to the application that you're running it on. Now let's say that we go back to being the admin that we started with, who entered the new client. And this is mostly just to demo the fact that we can do printing and replication in the web client. So let's say there's some auditing requirement that requires us to print a document for each new customer. So we're going to go in here and we're going to print our new customer document here. You can see that you can pick various things. This is going through the operating system print dialog. So I could print to an actual printer, I could print to a PDF, or whatever your operating system options are. In this case, I'm going to pick a PDF document. And I have printed it to a PDF, and I will now open up that PDF, and you'll be able to see that it's there. This is a very simple form, so it doesn't look very fancy. It's just there, but the capability is there to do the printing. And for the same archaic auditing requirements, we have to be available at all times, but maybe that's not archaic, maybe that's just normal. So you can also replicate this database and take it home in case you're going to not have connectivity wherever you're going. So in this case, you can see we have the make available offline. This is a simplified version of the dialog that you would see in the Notes Basic client. We got rid of some of those other options, and you can do the replication of that. And when that is done, you can always go look at the replication tab, and you can see what has been done. And so you can see that this is the replication tab that you should be used to, and the inventory manager has now been replicated, and there's the documents and the histories, and you can replicate from here and change the schedule and do that kind of stuff. The replication tab that you see here is pretty much the classic one. We are working on improving the look and feel and functionality of this, but this is the feature that you can use through various things, either through here directly or through the application like we saw earlier where we went to work online and work offline, and we forced the replication in between. One of the newer features in Nomad is via the partnership with PanAgenda. So PanAgenda has the Marvel client, and with that we can get what we call Nomad roaming. So it's not the same as the Notes client roaming, but it is similar in what you're trying to do. And so this is trying to say, if I get some things set up via the Marvel client configuration, and most of this is done via the free version of the licensing from Marvel client. There are some additional features that are upsells from PanAgenda, so you'll have to read the PanAgenda site to see all the different, what's included in the different licenses and things like this. But in this case, we are going to start with the Nomad for web browsers client, and we are setting it up, and you'll see that the last couple of steps are PanAgenda steps, which are doing setup. And in this case, we have defined the rule that says always make my mail file the first thing in my recent applications list. So this doesn't start with just an empty list or empty tiles. It starts with my users, who this is called factory tour in this case, their mail file. So their mail file is there. And if I go open up another application, so we're going to go onto our server and open up a different application. And we're going to open up that same inventory manager that we were showing in the previous demos. And here's the application as we were seeing it before. So now that we have done that, we can use the application as much as we want and do the kind of things. And we see that we have the inventory manager in the first slot and the factory tour is in the second slot. So now we're going to switch to a different Nomad client, but for this same user, and we're going to see how the Nomad roaming will work for us. So now we have switched to an iPhone. So we're going to go through the original setup. We're going through the Nomad server proxy, and we're going to speed up through some of these things. And we will see the configuration get applied here. So we slow it down here. So you can see that I have the two applications that I had over in the web browser, and the order has changed now because of the rule that says always make the mail database the first one in the recent application. So I have them all, it's just done the reorder. And if I open up another application on this server, we will see how this gets fed back into the Nomad for web browsers features. So now we have 3 applications on our recent applications, and the mail got bumped again, but we have 3. So now if we go back to the web browser, the next time you refresh the web browser, you don't have to do all the initial setup because the web browser has saved all that state, but the Marvel client checks will get made again. So it does the final configuration step again, and it will check for any changes to the roaming information. And now you can see that I have the 3 applications, and the mail one is in the beginning again because of that rule. So now I've been able to use the different clients between my iOS and my web browser and see that the applications are there. You can see that they're also on the workspace. So if you go to the workspace, you'll find the applications there as well as the recent applications. One of the relatively new features is trying to handle the notes links. So if I get a notes link in some application, be it some other third-party mail application or whatever that doesn't understand the notes protocol, we want to be able to handle those in Nomad for web browsers. So we are not able to use the notes protocol directly in the browser. It's not an internet approved protocol per se. So what we are able to register is the Notes Plus links. So anything Notes Web Plus, you can register in your browser without having to have official support from the internet sanctioning bodies. So we have done the Web Plus Notes protocol, and we've done for a couple of different ways to try and help you use the notes links by basically mapping the notes links into Web Plus notes links, which can then be handled in the web browser. But this does require some configuration in the device and in permissions in the browser to say, hey, I want to be able to run this protocol in the browser. I hear somebody else talking, so if you can go on mute, that'd be good. But if not, it's the background from the video that I can hear, which is not intentional and not important. So in this case, we're going to do the Windows setup. So what we've done in Windows is we have provided a link to a sample registry file, which can be used to basically says, hey, if I see the notes protocol, I want to redirect it to the Web Plus notes protocol. So that's what's going to happen here. So it's going to ask, do you want to launch Nomad for web browsers? So I went from in my mail, which was in verse, and I clicked on the link, and it launched the application that I had sent it as a notes link over here. So that was how Windows works. So it's through a registry file. If we switch operating systems and you're running on a different one, so now we're over on the Mac. It'll be similar. We want to do a different thing, and so we have a little Apple stub that maps the notes protocol over into the Web Plus notes protocol, which the browser has registered for. So we are looking for feedback on this feature as far as how it's working for people, and in particular on the deployment of said things. So in this case, we're starting out here, and it would have gone to the HCL Notes app. So now we're going to go in and we're going to go change the registration to be the Web Plus Notes protocol instead. So we've gone, and here's the little app. So we're going to download the app and run this on the Mac. The only other thing I would caution you while this happens is you don't want to do this if you're still running the Notes client. Having the Notes protocol taken away from the Notes client is not going to make the Notes client very happy. But if you're not running the Notes client and you're just running Nomad for web browser, or they're on a different machine that's only doing that, then this can be a very useful thing. Just remember that caveat. So now we've registered, and the Notes protocols now get redirected to Web Plus Notes. And when we click on this link, instead of opening it up in HCL Notes, it will now HCL Nomad, the Notes link app, which is the connector app, and it opens up in Nomad for web browsers. So this is a way to have the notes / links go to Nomad for web browsers, and depending on your operating system. One of the features we've done recently is on file import and export. That I know that there are a lot more things that you could potentially want to import and export here, but this is just going to show you a quick one on export. So we can pick some documents that are here, and we can just do a file export to these as a CSV. So we're going to take this view, we're going to pick some of the documents in the view, and we're going to do an export. You'll see there are different selections of values and stuff. Right now, the only one that works is CSV. The other ones are not going to work. So there is certainly that limitation that's currently in place, but it is a step in the direction of being able to do this. We also know that people have requested the ability to import. So obviously you'd want to export, but also to import and stuff. And that is not working in many of the factors either. But this is just an example that you can see that we did export as the CSV. And if we open up that up, you can see the documents that we had selected will show up in that CSV file. There you go. So there's our 4 documents that we picked, and the summary information is there. So this is a step in the export direction. If people would like to give us more feedback in AHA for requests that they need around these import and export features, we'd be glad to take that. So that's a lot of demos about different things that are in Nomad. If you have your own applications, then hopefully your applications will run as is. But if you want to improve them and update things, then you want to talk to Restyle. So that leads us then to ME, and I will let ME talk about what is Domino Restyle.
Yeah, so if we go to the next slide, Domino Restyle is an easy and simple way to take an existing Domino application that is viewable in both Notes and Nomad and change the visual styling to look more modern and update it. So it can take the image that's provided over on the left for an existing team room and update the styling to look like something on the right. This tool is available in both Notes Danube and Nomad 105 or later. We also have it available in the Nomad Sandbox if that's a tool that you want to go and explore if you're on a later client. You just have to register for the Sandbox to see that, and we'll have that link provided on a later slide. No matter where you restyle your applications, it's actually stored in the NSF when you do so. So it is viewable on both Nomad and Notes clients, and including later versions of the client. So if you have, restyled applications manually, you know how long that takes to change all of the properties, and this automatically does that for you and makes some design decisions for you along the way as well. Next slide. So the 3 important selling points of this is that it's low risk. We're only affecting the visual properties of your design elements within an application. We are not touching the logic or content of an existing application. And older applications will continue to work as they did previously. It has a lot of options, which is a benefit. As I mentioned, we make a lot of the design decisions for you. And it also is very low code in that you don't have to have any Domino designer skills in order to run it. You just have to have designer access in the HCL to the application. There are 63 different design options, which we'll go through in a little bit more detail when you are designing an application. So there are a lot of options there, and it's fast. So as I said, if you manually restyled an application, you know that takes multiple hours and days. This takes that down to minutes. In a smaller application, even seconds. It is very fast, which you'll see when Maureen runs the demos. So our guiding principles relate to those items on the previous slide. So I want to reiterate some of them. We do not break your application. As I mentioned, we don't touch your business logic of the application, which would be coded within Notes formula items, Lotus script, agents, and JavaScript. We are only touching visual properties. We do not change your content. So we provide end user control over when we change or adjust colors or when we remove images. That's all controlled in the wizard that you run when starting Restyle. So it is the end user's choice on if we do those things or not, and we do not deprecate any of this information that you're trying to convey to users through these items, whether it be colors or images. We also, I think this is a big one, like don't make me think. So I am a UX designer, I am a visual designer, I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, but if you're not, and you're more on the dev side, or even if you're in on the business side of things, but you own an application and you want to restyle it, we really take all of those design questions off of you to have to make, and we go ahead and make them for you within the framework we've developed. So what we restyle certain design elements. These are things that we've actually coded to take on updated visual properties. They are as follows. So we do views, forms and subforms, pages, action bars, embedded outlines, frame sets, and all of those are provided in Nomad 105 and Notes Danube. The 2 items that were added within 106 for Nomad are navigators and default folders. These are similar to what you would see with embedded outlines. All 3 of those have to do with the navigator over on the left. And one of the items that's coming soon, so like when we restyled forms and subforms, we were dealing with background colors, table styling, and font styling. now we're looking at the actual components that go onto forms, starting with field components, which is a long list of items, has to do with text fields, rich text fields, numbers, dates, time, and etc. So with the addition of restyling of the navigator and default folders, we also were looking at how we restyle launch properties or update applications to match the layout and frame set format that we expect in applications. So we know that 90% of apps are laid out in the way that's presented over on the right. You typically have an application name in the top left, a view on the right, and some way to navigate your views and pages with a panel on the left. So Maureen will be demoing this in more detail, but what we've done is that we have developed a default frame set template in which end users can choose to use or not, that allows us to take an application that's using a launch property that might be just to a view or doesn't have a frame set defined as launch property, and we will provide you with a restyle of an app that looks like this. And like I had mentioned, it includes us auto-generating pages for the application name, as well as the server name. And yeah, so that was what we were trying to do here, was make it so that older applications that don't have these things defined look better. And so now I'll pass it off to Maureen to do some demos.
Thanks, Annie. I'm going to share my screen, which hopefully is showing.
Yes, we see your screen, Maureen, I think.
Thank you. Just making sure. I just switch right over to the Notes client because we, as Emmy said, we did ship in Notes 105, which came out just before 1202. But we're continuously building and developing. So 1202 is a little better than 105. 106 is a little better than 1202. They're all pretty darn good, for the record, but we're in a state of continuous evolution. More on that later, but I did want to show this in the Notes client, even though this talk is all about Nomad, because this is a place where a lot of you will be able to run it. So right here we have our standard discussion database. It's got some applications in it. This looks like it will look like in Nomad. I have unset the composite application settings that make it look a little different, but still not as good as we're going to make it look. So I'm just going to go ahead. And it follows the pattern. Here's the server name. This is kind of the standard structure of all our templates and a lot of your applications too. So I have made a copy of this application, which we encourage you to do. I will note that we don't restyle databases that inherit from a template. I have broken the inheritance on this one. So when you make a copy or when you create a database, you can just break that inheritance. So when you start this, we start file application restyle. We bring up a wizard. And let's see, I am going to just quickly go through here. I'm going to make a couple color changes, note how that updates. But first I'm going to show you how fast it is. And then I'll go through and explain more what this does. Get rid of those composite app settings, and I'm going to leave things alone. So this is a discussion database, which for the record has a lot of design elements. It's not quite as pathological as mail, but it's pretty darn big. So then I'm going to open it, and it's restyled. And it looks a lot different. It's not that horrible green. Some people might like that green, but it's kind of very 2002 maybe. We've got our sea breeze theme. It's nice blue and white. Even the color of the unread marks has changed. The color of the unread documents has changed. Oh, I should have shown. I can do this. I'm going to show you something else about how it looked before, to show you what else we can do to a database. So just a reminder, this is what it looked like. And I just want to go into a form. And it's, as over time, as you build a form, as you design it, different people work in it, you end up with different sizes of text. Some people have really horrible taste in colors and buttons. So this is what a form could look like. Hopefully not too many of them this bad, but now I want to go back to this guy and let's look at the same form here. So what has happened? We've normalized the fonts because Emmy went through, and if fonts are in certain ranges, we will make them the same. So, you may want bigger fonts in some cases for emphasis or whatever. So we're not totally saying everything has to be 9-point font exactly. We do want to, one of our purposes is we don't want to ruin content. We don't want to change. And actually, this isn't content. This is on the form anyway. The button has been changed to the primary color I picked for the app. And those horrible colors that I picked for the table have been muted. They've been mapped to colors that coordinate with that palette. So now I'm just going to restyle this once more to show you some of these options, because we didn't have to do everything exactly that way. That was mostly to show you how fast it is and what the defaults will do. So I did change sea breeze because I like sea breeze best. I can say, oh, what would this look like teal? And notice this updates. There's a different option. I can make a dark outline instead of colorful action bar. So there's different styles, and this is where it comes down to Emmy's 63 combinations, because there's 3 of these, 7 of these, and 3 of these. And if you multiply it all out, you get 63. So here I want to go in a little more detail and explain the mapping. Now, this application is discussion, and it's built in our standard form. So it has an application title, it has an outline, and it has a server name area. And we have gone in and we've introspected the NSF, and we have figured out which parts of the application those are. In a lot of cases, and actually a surprising number of cases, we get it right, because it's actually kind of hard to figure out. We see if the application starts on a frame set, and we can kind of make some good guesses, who's got an outline on it, etc. There are times when we can't figure this out. If it's computed, then we just can't know. So it computed in the frame set. So there are times when the user will have to help us out here and say, what happens. And there are times when not applicable is a completely correct answer. And that is in the drop down. So you don't have to map exactly to this if you don't want to. On the next page, this was the default option, which was to map the background colors to similar colors in the theme. So I want to just also remove back. Let's not do that this time. Let's see what happens when we don't do that. Let's remove background images from tables. I don't think we have any. And the composite application properties are already gone. But also notice how we've remembered your settings from last time. We remembered that we turned it blue. We remembered all the previous settings. So if you want to do this a second time and only change one thing, you don't have to remember all the different settings you made. So now I'm going to go through and we're going to do this again and open it up. And this is the dark outline theme. And if we open this up, actually in this case, the background colors on the table are gone completely. So there are times when you will want to keep that. Like if it's a finance application and you want red to be there for if something is a loss, or green if it's a profit. So in that kind of case, you'll want to take the first option about mapping the colors. You just will get a green and a red to go with your application. And the font is still normalized because it was from last time and it didn't actually need to be done. One of the things we put in, and now the button changed color to the primary color. So this is 1202. We continue, I said we continue to evolve. So I'm going to switch over to Nomad now, which wants me to log in. I'm working on a development server, which likes me to do that a lot. So, because I always like to demo from my own local code, which is maybe a particular kind of crazy, but it's me. So this is 106.5. We did add some features in 106 that Emmy talked about, and I'm going to demo those, but this is, this goes beyond, and the sandbox is continually updated. So you can keep in pace with what we're doing by using that. And I want to point out that even if you restyle an application in 106 of Nomad or 107 of Nomad or 108 of Nomad, those applications, at least at this point, because we haven't taken advantage of any design properties that are not in older clients, I can restyle something in 106, 106.5, and it will still run in 1202, 12, 11, 10. We are working, we're working with this defined CD structure. So I'm just going to open up this application, and this is something new. This is we call it renovation application, not renovations, the company we use in a lot of our demos, but the renovation process of an application. So you'll notice this, I mean, how many notes applications look like this, right? This is the default. You didn't bother to create a frame set. You didn't bother to create an outline. You just created forms and views, and this is the default rendering that you get. So, and it does the job, but it looks kind of old at this point. So 1202 won't do this. 1202 would just make the view look better. You wouldn't know what to do with that thing on the right. But I'm going to restyle this guy. And let's see, I'm going to pick dark outline again. We'll try creamy taupe, even though I like ocean breeze better. I'm going to try, let's see, what color should I pick? I'm going to pick teal again because I like it. I'm going to pick dark outline. Now you guys are the first people on the planet to see this. This is being worked on for 107. We do want to give you the ability to build a new application icon. The application icon builder in the current client, it's adorable. It's been with us forever, but it builds teeny tiny icons that have limited color palettes that aren't up to the task. I am hopeful that this will make 107. It is not guaranteed, as always, when you're showing future stuff, because I'm not going to ship it unless it's perfect. But basically the idea is you'll be able to combine icons with, notice how this was sensitive to the color I picked. It could also be a circle. We're looking to support gradients. Emmy would say the word chamfer, but both Bob and I had to Google what that meant. So we figured you guys probably would too. So we changed that to be beveled. So anyway, this is the icon builder. It is not yet functional. You guys are getting a sneak peek, and I hope it'll make 107, but that's the cool thing about working with Nomad. Things ship every quarter. So if it doesn't make 107, then we'll keep working on it for 108. And you don't have to wait for the next notes client release, and we can keep going and keep giving you value. So this isn't going to do anything at the moment. So this tab is there in 106, and I'm going to update this to a standardized frame set. So let's be brave, let's change it. Let's map the colors because I like that. Let's remove the background images, and let's restyle this application. I'm going to open it up. Kind of a good change, right? Pretty good. Let's see. And what did I want to point out here? Oh, so we now conform to the standard frame set. And if I do this again, you'll notice it no longer gives me the option, that still isn't there. Before it said launch properties, now it says confirm mapping. And that happens because we've taken design elements, very generic ones, from a new template that is going to be shipped, that is shipping with Nomad, that contains an application title page, it contains an outline page, and it contains a server location. So I just wanted to point out that these guys are in the application now. So we don't have to change it again. So I'm just going to cancel this. And let's see, I'm going to show you something else we've done for 106. Now this application, when we did the original restyle work, we thought navigators are obsolete. There aren't any applications out there with navigators in them anymore. We were wrong. So one of the first things we did after 12.02 shipped was to work on restyling navigators. So here is a navigator, and I'm going to restyle this application. File, application, restyle. Yes, this is a copy. I solemnly swear I've made a copy. I'm going to go back to Seabreeze. This application has sort of a purpley vibe, so I'm going to pick indigo. And colorful action bar is fine. I like that actually best, to tell you the truth. See, notice how it picked up the color? Now, maybe it's like, yeah, we have noticed that this application doesn't use a frame set. It's launching a navigator in a default view. But that's what its launch properties are. So we've noticed that, and we're saying, hey, you can fix it and use our recommended way. But let's say I don't want to do that. I want to keep my navigator. Let's map the colors, remove background images, and let's restyle it. And let's open it. And the navigator is now color coordinated. It's still going to work because we do not touch code. We don't even open agents or script libraries. We do not touch any code in the application because that would be evil, and we're not evil. So navigators are newly restyled. File, application. But what if I decide, well, maybe I should be brave, and let's change it to, oh, let's go with blue this time. Sometimes the default is nice. Let's see what happens when we do what they do recommend. All the settings are remembered. Open. And there is our renovated application. It no longer uses a navigator. It's got the pieces here. And in this case, we generate a default outline for the application. In cases where, and actually new in 107, if you have an application that starts with a frame set, but we aren't able to map everything, in that case, we give you the option to convert it, in that case too. And in that case, we will use an existing outline or an existing starting view if you have one. That's new. That's in 107, not in 106. This one, there was no outline to use, so we just built a new one based on the views. Now the navigator had some actions, so you're going to have to think about, well, what do I want? We don't make you think very much, but there are times when you have to think a little bit. So that is the demo for now. I want to switch back to the slides, which are somewhere. Oh, I must have closed it. All right, let me restyle demo is here, which means we want to go here. And I'm going to, okay, so we did our demo. And I want to talk a little bit, oh no, actually Emmy's going to talk to this. I get to take a break.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm going to go over some of the design details. I think that seeing the wizard that was demoed by Maureen really helps clarify that, but I want to give some insight into how that works, but I want to provide some more clarity. So the main page, which launches when you launch the wizard, is really where the theming happens. There's three parts: the application color, the theme color, and then the theme for how color is applied. So for application color specifically, we use these colors in areas like the application title page or name page. Those things are titled different things. They also are built in different ways. They could be built with a page or built with a form. We've even seen where people build them with a form and also use an action bar. And then in the colorful action bar theme, it is used in the action bar along with the header to the view itself. And we also use it on buttons, as well as the thing that it's coming new that Maureen demoed for you guys with the application icon background. So we have, some branding within HCL that we call the Enchanted design language. And the colors that are provided out of the box, there's 7 of them, all from the same kind of tone range. And that is from our design language. We think it looks great. It's what we're using to produce, our applications. It's what we use to style Nomad. It's also what we've used to restyle some of the notes templates and the notes client and the parts that have been updated in the past couple of years. And then we are also providing in the future a way to customize this application color so that if you don't want to use our styling options out of the box for this particular color, you can choose a color from your branding guidelines for your main color that's defined for your company. You'll be able to access a color picker in which you can enter in the exact RGB color for your company's color. So that's application color. And if we go to, I think, theme colors, I think it's slow for me, I don't know. Yeah, so there's three theme colors that Maureen had mentioned. There's creamy taupe, neutral gray, and sea breeze. Neutral gray has no color associated with it. It is a pure gray. Well, in the design world, there are grays that tend to be warmer or cooler. These are totally neutral, so they should work mostly out of the box with whatever company color you might be customizing with. And that is also why it is our default. We choose the blue as a default for the application color because that tends to be a little bit more neutral. It's usually used as a call to action color. So it seems like a safe color to go with. Obviously, you have a lot of choices, other choices you can choose from. Our creamy taupe tends to get a little bit warmer. It's in the tannish ranges with a little bit more yellow. and then Seabreeze, you know, it has bluer tones to it. And the idea is that you would choose your application color, and then you choose the theme you think looks best with that application color. And also internally, as different teams are restyling applications that they own, of course, the company can define which guidelines they want people to use if they want users to use all the same one. That would happen external to our wizard, but you know, that would also be a valid way of working. So if we go to the next slide. So with the theme colors, there is a framework to it. So we have developed color tokens that are stored in a JSON file purely for colors. It has to do with different background colors and text colors, and they are applied to the design elements in different ways. So one of the things that we have been working on is moving the JSON files to an NSF location in which end users will be able to update JSON on their own. So you would start with our design framework and switch out these theming colors one-to-one, and that's how you would develop new themes. As that's made available, we will obviously communicate with you guys on how to do that and give you more information, but I wanted to let you know that that's something that we're working on. And I think in the next slide, it all kind of comes together. So, well, actually one more thing. So how colors applied. So this is the third option that's on that main wizard page. We have different, you know, they're generally themes. Sometimes I call them color schemes or schema, but that kind of conflicts with some coding terms. So, you know, you can call it whatever you would like, but it has to do with how colors are applied. So colorful action bar and dark outline are descriptive of what colors we're applying where. So you have color, the application color actually used in the action bar, a dark outline actually used there. And then simple is just more like, it's just more monotone in that it doesn't have a bold outline and it doesn't have a bold action bar, but it still has some of that like application branding that comes with the app. And I guess one thing I should mention is that the application color is a good way if you decide to use different ones and not go with the branding for your company. That's another good method for wayfinding for the end user as they go through their tabs in either the Notes client or the Nomad client. Having those different colors associated with the app can help users know which app they're in. So that's could be another design method that you take within your organization. So as it all comes together, this is where the 63 options come from. And now it's more than that when we add the ability to customize the application color. But you can see here, there's this grid where you have the theme colors as identified in the columns. And then there's 3 different ways we apply that color. And then multiple application colors that will be available to you as well. So you know, you can choose as a company to make them all look the same. You can also choose to have different internal branding for different organizations if you choose to. So like if they're a set of apps that are used by the sales team, you could have those all look the same versus a set of apps for the marketing team, those could all look the same. So there's a lot you can do there as well. And Maureen had showed the options for removing images and then the choices for mapping color or not mapping color. But I wanted to call out the actual palettes that are used for that. So we designed separate color palettes for each theme color set. These are documented in that JSON file as well, in which if you were to create a whole new theme with new background colors and font colors, you could also edit these options or choose a particular set that you want to use for your updated theme. They were created with pulling in accents from the actual background colors. So the colors within Seabreeze are a little bit more blue versus the creamy taupe are a little bit more warm. I know that's very hard for the average user to see, but that is design-wise the logic there. So that will help give you some information on choosing which one you want to choose. The neutral ones, again, are going to be more neutral and not go in a direction of warm or cool. And Maureen did demo how the color mapping does show within a table, but this is showing over on the right, what happens when we choose to remove a background image, and then when we choose to map the colors, that the colors do change to be mapped to our set of colors that are available in this range. And then Maureen had demoed what we had so far implemented for the application icon generator. You can see we are making progress in the code because these are some drawings that I had made that are static. You can see Maureen's code is really starting to look more and more like this, so we're making progress. She did demo that there are different shape options. The two are circle and square, and that there are 4 different shading options, which you can see in the examples on the bottom right. So we have different gradient options. Some of our gradients go from the same color as a darker version to a lighter color. So like a darker blue to a lighter blue. Some are ranging from complementary colors that we've chosen to work together, like the top right one is from a blue into a purple. There's different edge treatments. So in the pie chart one that's in the bottom right, second to last, that has what we are calling a beveled edge finish. And really what we're doing is we are providing you these options, but based off of the application color that you've chosen. So like we feel like you have control over building that brand for that specific application, in that you're defining the color for it, which is also going to then map to the application color, which is the application icon background color, which is viewed on the workspace page. And then all of that gets tied together. And there are multiple foreground images that you can choose from. So it would be suggested that you choose a foreground image that represents the application that you're working on. So for example, the one with the airplane would be a good option for if you are tracking expense reports for business travel. And I think that's all that I have. So yeah. Back to you, Maureen. Thank you.
Sure. Okay.
Just a time check, you guys. Sorry, Maureen. Just a quick time check. We've got 10 minutes left in our time slot, and we do have some questions. So just FYI.
I'll talk very fast. So things to note, we're changing design elements. So you need designer access to the application for this to work. It's recommended to redesign the template, not the applications that derive from it, although if there are cases where you want to do that, you can just break the inheritance. And we are changing, when you say restyle, we are doing that, it's happening. We can't roll back. So if you're just playing around and trying to figure out what you want, make a copy. When you're really sure what you want, that's when you want to restyle the template or the actual application. They added the new copy menu item to Nomad just to help you try before you buy effectively, or try before you restyle. And note, the person doing the restyle, they are modifying through effectively our restyle automation. You're modifying design elements, they are being re-signed. So you may get some ECL warnings from the client, or you should re-sign the application. So basically how it works, I think we take all the information and we are driven from JSON files. Now in 1202, those JSON files are in the data directory. In Nomad 106 and forward, including in the next version of the Notes client, they will be in an NSF instead. We are working on ways, because we know, of course, you want to customize it. We want these files to be secure. We have decided that an NSF is both the most secure and the most flexible way to handle customization. So as of 106, these files have moved into that. So we have palette JSON files, we have typography JSON files, we have JSON files for each of the colorful action bars, simple and dark outline, and we programmatically combine them to make the color changes. This is an example of what the JSON file would look like. Notice the references to other JSON files, the palette and background like primary, like Emmy was talking about. We do know customization is important, and we are working on getting there because we want it to be, I mean, that's why we did JSON to begin with. The custom color will actually be driven with UI, which will be very easy. But more advanced users will be able to do a lot more with JSON. We actually are modifying those design elements. We are changing the CD records that they are built from. You have seen that you can run it multiple times, and if you haven't broken the inheritance and somehow managed to, or if you've reset it to inherit, design refresh will nuke your restyle changes. So, watch out for that. It's in Nomad 105 or later. It's in 1202. And this is the URL to the sandbox. You might want to take a picture of that QR code so you can go try it out if you don't have 1202 or Nomad yourself. So, but do keep using it in Nomad, because that's the beauty. We can keep making this better and better and making the restyled applications better and better. So, designing for Nomad Mobile, do we have time for?
I'll discuss it briefly.
Okay.
So just to be aware that there are design things that you can do if you do want to redesign and control your app. So these are a sample of them. You can hide a column from mobile, and mobile in this case means Nomad on iOS or Android. It does not impact Nomad on the web browser. Similarly, you'll see a checkbox for web browsers. That is the web apps themselves and not Nomad for web browsers. So don't be confused between those either. So you can control things, whether you're hiding columns, actions, and paragraphs. Keep going, Maureen. The 3 Nomad clients do respond to ad platform specific with details, and this is in the documentation on what the responses are. And if you go to the next, keep going, you're able to use that information to do additional things, which we'll see shortly. There's also a mobile actions button. So you'll see in the middle screen, there's a little 4-line button there. That's the little pop-up buttons that you can have hover over without taking up actual real estate on the UI, and you can control what buttons show up in there. So in this case, there's a new topic button, and it does show up in the screen on the right to add buttons there or things that you want to do there. So you can do those as mobile actions. Again, that's on iOS and Android. And then the last one I wanted to show you is the next one, which is related to doing the app platform stuff. So you can use that command, relayout window, use information that you gathered from the app platform to decide what the resolution width is and that kind of stuff. And so this is all documented in the add command dialogues, but these kind of things are available. If you need more things like this available, you can give us ideas in the AHA, which if you go to the references slide, which we'll stop on. So you can take a screenshot of this. The top left one is your ideas. So we run most of the things through project management through ideas. And so whatever ideas you want to have, a lot of them already exist, and you can vote for them, and that'll help get them prioritized. Or if you want to put a new idea out there and have people vote it up, that's fine too. And then the other links are other useful links that I won't talk about, and we can take some questions.
Awesome.
Yep, thank you.
Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, sure. Yeah, thanks, Maureen, Emmy, and Bob for a great presentation. Got a couple questions. We'll try to get through them real quick. One question, which I think you answered, what is running on the iOS device or app or a browser instance?
It is an application, so you have to download it from the Apple App Store, and it runs as an standalone application on your iOS devices. Same thing for Android.
And I believe you had a QR code in your slides, which hopefully will publish to everyone that they can go view.
Correct. Should also be easier to find. You can search. You should be able to search for HCL Nomad in either of the app stores and find it pretty easily.
Okay, the demo app that you were showing, is that something that people can download and learn from?
The demo application itself, the inventory manager that I demoed, is not available separately. It is in our HCL sandbox environment. So if you wanted to play with it, you could sign up for the sandbox and we could make access available to you there. But the application itself is not available publicly.
Okay.
Okay, then we had a comment. I think Thomas Bond works for HCL, I believe. He was trying to say the rich text, I'm going to read it, but he had a link to the rich text light input. Do you want to take this one, Bob? Or
this is the question. The rich text light input is in the notes, Daniel, we're 1202. It is not in the Nomad clients yet. That is a work in progress incoming.
Okay, so that's the signature feature is just in the notes client, not in the Nomad clients.
Correct.
Okay, got ya. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Bob is asking, does Nomad properly handle notes client JavaScript?
It does handle quite a bit of the JavaScript, and as well as the add commands, add format, and those kind of things. There are some limitations which are around certain things that we can't do. The big one is OLE. So anything OLE where you're trying to talk to the operating system to do something, we can't do that because we're in the browser sandbox. Those kind of things, those should all be documented in the limitations documentation or in the add command load of script reference sections on which commands don't work on various platforms. It's not always, sometimes they work on Mac and sometimes they work on Windows, that kind of stuff. They should all be listed for Nomad as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, great. Gabor had a question, is Restyle also working with the calendar style views?
Have to go off mute. Yes, it is. Let's see, we can definitely restyle calendar views. If they were yellow, they'll turn teal, or whatever color you pick. So yes, we have a separate JSON definition for them, and I'll have to demo one of those next time. But yes, it works with them.
Okay, great.
And so I guess it was a little bit unclear about how Restyle is available. Basically, I'm guessing if you've got 1202, you automatically get it, or do you have to do a separate download install?
It's right in the client file application menu, available for everyone. It will only be enabled if you have designer access to the database, but it's there.
Okay, Howard, you get the last one.
Okay, is the HCL design language available? I'm not quite sure what that is.
That was what Emmy was talking about.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, with the mapping.
Yeah, so, well, I'd referenced that we use an enchanted design language internally. So I don't know that HCL has published that externally anywhere. I'm not aware, but one thing that I am working on that should be coming soon is I am working on a Domino design guide that will be shipped with the product and or available for download on Git. It will be provided in an NTF or NSF. We're working through those details right now, but that would provide all of the colors, and it's also guidance on how to use that design language specific to Domino apps and how to style properties for each design element, available in Designer. So that is coming soon, and I think that will be more specific than if we had some generalized branding guidance out there available.
Wonderful.
Okay, good. Well, I think that This really is gonna, there's so many ugly old notes apps out there. This could really make a big difference.
We hope so.
All right, we can wrap. Howard, go ahead. Did I lose you? Well, tell you what, I'll do it.
Making those look a lot better. So it's a neat product. So that's it for. Anyway, I'd like to thank our presenters for showing this this new stuff, and then also like to thank the other folks at OpenNTF who help put the webinars on Jesse Gallagher and Roberto, as well as Graham. Thank you for your help, and I hope everyone has a great rest of your day. And we will put the recording of this webinar as well as the slides once we get them up on the OpenNTF webinars page, as well as, currently there's all the other previous webinars there. So thank you again, and take care, everyone.
Thank you.